The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Access Fort Wayne is a department of the Allen County Public Library. If you or anyone you know might be interested in making a television show, please call 260-421-1250.
Hi, Dr. Rudy Kachmann. Welcome to our show. This today is the Kachmann Wellness Show, which is about preventing, stopping, reversing diabetes. And I'm speaking mainly about type 2 diabetes, so let me tell you the difference. And this is a great opportunity because we can prevent 30, 40 chronic illnesses by doing this, and it's not that difficult. That's the beauty of it. And I'm a little disappointed, frankly, in public health and the government for not really medical schools for not bringing this to the forefront, because these illnesses can be prevented, stopped, and reversed. They're letting you have the illnesses, high blood pressure, dementia, strokes, heart attacks, liver disease, amputations, dislocations, skin rashes, increased rates of cancer. On and on. They could be prevented if we would just, on every doctor's visit, say, what type of food are you eating? Are you getting some exercise? It's not even a big diet or anything. It's type of food. So the wonderful opportunity today, though, is I'll teach it to you. And you can go onto my YouTube shows, previous one, which are these shows really, and other shows that I do. Just YouTube, Rudy Kachmann, diabetes, 30, 40 shows will come up. And you could pick up a sheet at the Three Rivers Pharmacy for free, which I'll hold up for you right here. And you'll see at the bottom, let me turn it over. At the bottom, there is a barcode. You see that right there? If you copy that barcode, then that way you can, a world will open up to you on your iPad or on your computer full of so much information. You'll never get through it. But you could get rid of your diabetes 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Blood sugars will return to normal quickly if you eat the right food. You'll get off most medications. Probably get you off insulin too. Not every case, but 90% of the cases. Metformin, for example. Those drugs actually help promote the disease. Why is that, Rudy? They give it all the time. Let me tell you about insulin. It's anabolic. It makes you fat. It's going to make things worse. Insulin takes sugar, opens the door to the cell by hitting these receptors, and stuffs sugar into the cell. Well, the metabolism of sugar occurs in the cell. So your cell is going to get bigger, and you're going to get bigger, and you're going to get bigger. And then he found out, Dr. Kraft published a book, 2006, the research done in 1970s. In the early 1970s, they knew that insulin was the first thing to go up. It makes a hole in your vasculature, the ear being the smallest blood vessels. That's where it can start. Yeah, that's the start of vascular disease, is elevated serum insulin, which is caused by sugar. Remember I said insulin takes sugar into the cell. It makes them bigger. That's why people who are on insulin gain a lot of weight, okay? And all this essentially can be prevented. It's in many books. I'm just saying this, but to me, it's a passion. And then I come to find out that this epidemic which we're having right now, most of the deaths, like in New York, Chicago, New Orleans, many other states too, even Allen County here, are in people who had diabetes to begin with. You see, diabetes causes high blood pressure, vascular disease, increased rates of cancer. It's not the other way around. They don't cause diabetes. That's what they make you think. It's incorrect. Don't get diabetes, don't get those diseases 90% of the time. I had published in a paper that came out on Thursday. It's an actual paper, not just an email thing. It's called the Ink Spot. It's published more in the by John Dortch. It's meant more, I think, for the inner city community, but it's sold at many gas stations, at Barnes and Noble, at Sweetwater. So it works for everybody. But I've developed a relationship with them, so I bought an ad in there because if I took the same ad in the Journal Gazette, it cost me a fortune, thousands of dollars. Well, I got an ad at a much more reasonable price. In this newspaper, it comes out every 2 weeks. They give me one full page. And look at this. Let me hold it up for you. It's right there. Okay, so you can't see the detail here, but you can get the paper. I encourage you to get it. It's not expensive. 1 year's prescription, I think $50. And but one individual paper, much less. But on this page, I'm telling you, let me say what it says on here. Dr. Rudy's War on Diabetes. Why did I use a term like that? Because just touching the issue is not getting anything done. Medical school, government, Diabetes Association, they just want you to take pills and shots and sell you equipment and all kind of stuff. But what I'm talking about is getting rid of it quickly. Yes, I even got some books to show you. It explains in more detail. What I'm saying on this one-page thing, and I have another one coming out in 2 weeks. I already got the artwork done. Yeah, well, you see the next one. And every 2 weeks, I'm going to have a message. So, the evil twins, coronavirus and diabetes. What am I talking about? Well, our gut, our biome, which runs the metabolism of our body, trillions of cells, 10 trillion live bacteria living in your gut. All of us got that, okay? Most of us are not aware that. They run their own metabolic system. They utilize their own glucose, their own fats. But viruses are much smaller, and they have to enter, and I have a picture of it here, say one human cell, okay? And their cells have receptors on them. The virus hits the receptor and enters the cell. Why does it enter the cell? To steal the sugar and the fatty acids, which come from sugar, okay, for its own metabolic system, okay? Then it uses the fatty acids to make its own membranes, and then uses the sugar to develop its own, to have energy. It multiplies tremendously, and then goes out one of the doors of the cell and is spread throughout the world. So diabetics, people with diabetes, remember what I said about insulin? Pushing the sugar into the cells, and what happens to your cells when insulin does that? They get bigger and bigger and bigger. And now the type 2 diabetics got in it a lot of sugar. And what does the virus want? Sugar. So the virus goes in there and steals the sugar, and then it's spread throughout the world. You see the point? If you're not diabetic, the virus still could get in there, but a lot less likely. It wouldn't multiply as much because there ain't any sugar amount to anything there. We all need some for energy. You see the point? But that's the drawing I got in there. And then what I say after that, information is the answer. Diabetes is 90% preventable, reversible in a few weeks. Mark Hyman would say your blood sugar will come to normal in a week. So that's why I encourage you to maybe get one of these monitors that you can strap to your arm or put it on your belly, and then use your iPhone, and you can, after you eat something, within 30 minutes to an hour, get your blood sugar a little more frequently if you decide to get rid of it, because remember what I said, you eat the right food, the blood sugars will dive quickly. Oral medications probably need to be stopped within a week or two. It's right in Mark Hyman's books. And majority of people, not all of them, majority of the people can get rid of their insulin too. So we can prevent, stop, reverse diabetes 90% of the time, and it's very quick. And that's the reason I named it a war on diabetes. I named it War on Diabetes because it is so important. But I'm backed up by many books. If you, and on this paper I have here too, and on this paper too, remember I said I have a barcode at the bottom right there. Put that on your phone, and you get tremendous amount of information. I have it on the newspaper also, so you could go to the pharmacy, pick it up at Three Rivers Pharmacy, or get the Ink Spot newspaper. There's the barcode. Put it on your iPhone, and you gain tremendous amount of information. And here's a book I encourage you to read, because I'm about information. You can see most of that all on YouTube. I also have FM 95.7 a couple of days a week. It is on there, but 500 YouTube shows probably. If you get the barcode, you'll see I do a Facebook post, about 10 minutes each post. I have about 20 on there too. They're a lot quicker, but you can always put on the YouTube shows, watch 10 minutes, they're an hour long, 10 minutes, and watch another one another day, full of information. This is a disease worth getting rid of and walking the extra mile. You might say, it's in my genes, it's genetics. It may be in your genes, all right, but genetics plays a very small part. If it's throughout your family, it's because everybody's eating the same food. I've seen it. Every family member getting the legs amputated, dying young, getting dementia, getting sudden heart attacks, and their provider never brought up the fact, you could get rid of this. You may be resistant, you may be a closed mind, but we're not kidding around here. We're talking about you living 20 years longer and not being disabled. Remember I said dementia, thyroid disease, teeth falling out, blindness, heart attacks, strokes, liver transplants. Most of renal disease, incidentally, is due to diabetes, but yet do the renal people try to teach you how to stabilize your glomerular filtration rate? They rate renal disease from 100 down to 10. 10 you need a transplant, 100 you're normal. As you go further down, you could stabilize it, even reverse it. There's a guy named Lee Hull, Hull, who wrote a book, Stop Renal Disease, written by a layman, not a doctor, full of references. Read that book, or you can come to the pharmacy. We'll teach you how to do that. I'm doing that right now to a black lady who needed a kidney, but she didn't want it. So, like I said, I'm teaching her how to get rid of her diabetes. I'm using Lee Hull's work, and he also has a cookbook, and I've hired a dietitian, which I'm paying for, to get her to eat right. She eats out of this cookbook, and guess what? She's lost 30 pounds, looking beautiful. No one ever brought this idea up to her. So who do we give credit to? To the patient who listened and wanted to do something about it. She's on Lee Hull's website all the time about kidney disease, because he has a lot of other things there a person can read and occupy the mind. That's not necessary, but she's doing it. So, matter of fact, she's teaching me a little bit. And you love a patient who spends a little time on their website or a book every day. I love it. Another book I kind of like, Goodbye Pills and Needles. Look at this. I found this book here. You see the author at the bottom. Real cheap to buy. Amazon books. You could get it. Goodbye Needles. You can get rid of the 90-day cure. 3 months, no diabetes. Whether it's 2 months or 3 months, it'd be sooner. Very good written, and he refers a lot to other famous authors, books I already read, but there's only about a half a page word for he summarizes the real guts of it all. Even has some recipes in there. I think it's a great book. If you want to read a little bit, read My Rudy's War on Diabetes, read that book. Look at some of YouTube, and you are on your way. Yeah, and I brought that up about renal disease. That's a subject. See, only 2 companies can control dialysis, where they make you lay there for 4 hours and dialyze your blood and then run it back in you. They don't tell you there. You could get rid of that renal disease the majority of the time. That's what I'm telling you. But you need to gather, some information. And for some people, it's very difficult. But there are some programs where they use a religion to change the way you're thinking, and I like that idea. We're all of different faiths, and some have no faith, but there's a book been written called The Daniel Plan by Rick Warren. He's a minister in San Francisco, I think, and Daniel Amen and Mark Hyman. And this, I think, is an excellent book, and they use some Bible quotes in there, which I like. One of which is that your body is the body of Christ. Now, you could be of any religion, okay? Hindu religion, Islamic religion, they wouldn't argue with that. It's the body of God, and you should show it some respect. Just to come eating what you want and being closed mind and watching your health ruin itself and dying young and being disabled, and instead of avoiding that when it's full of Bible quotes. I like it. And Dr. Hyman is an excellent teacher because he has a book out called End of Diabetes, Goodbye Diabetes. Many books. You can go online and actually the way he teaches it too, I like his reference to serum insulins. Remember we spoke about insulin pushing the sugar in the cells? The way they test people today, you suppose you're a little bit overweight, so I see something. I'm screening people, say at General Motors, and the fasting blood sugar is normal. That's the usual way they do it, and the nurse would say, you don't have diabetes. I would say, I don't know yet. So you run a glucose tolerance test. You swallow 75 grams of sugar, you get a fasting, 1 hour, 2 hour, and that's normal. And the nurse says, you're not diabetic. I ordered the glucose tolerance because he's overweight. I see something. Okay. Underweight people, incidentally, 20% can have diabetes. So you are what your blood test is. Okay. Same time they run the glucose tolerance test, they can run an insulin tolerance test. Fasting, 1 hour, 2 hour. If they are normal, then you're not diabetic. You can always run a double check something in there. I always recommend that, or repeat it in 6 months or something. Then you're not diabetic. The point is, the insulin levels go up 15, 10, 20 years before the blood sugar levels go up. So you could diagnose, suppose we ran serum insulins in children. We'd probably kill this epidemic of diabetes. I went to the head of pediatrics, state of Indiana, who lives in town, and gave him Joseph Kraft's book, who did the original research that proved that about the insulin. He did autopsies. He studied 15,000 people. Mark Kachmann has proved it since. Many other doctors have proved it since. It is a correct way. But the American Diabetic Association and the medical system has not adopted that. Why? Well, I don't know. Maybe they make a lot less money. Could be. If you got rid of the diabetes, you stop the dialysis, the hospitalizations, all the medications being sold. I am suspicious. I am suspicious because I've had many people with some insulins where I'm not diabetic, but we ran that, and then they lost weight, and they felt normal, and their diseases went away, and they went off of pills. I'd love for some hospital to stand up and say, we'll test 1,000 people. I go over and talk to them. Not interested. I had that happen to me. Not, oh, we'll call you. Well, they never called. And because we could anticipate this development of this illness many years before it occurs. Wow. We save many lives, amputations, renal transplants, unannounced heart attacks. 70% of memory loss, dementia, is caused by diabetes. And a scientific paper recently proved that the same enzyme, IDE, insulin-degrading enzyme, that degrades insulin also degrades amyloid, the cause of Alzheimer's disease. The trouble is, in diabetics, all that enzyme is used up, so there's not enough left to degrade amyloid, which gunks up the brain and causes ALZ, Alzheimer's disease. A lot of diabetics eventually end up with dementia, and they'll call it ALZ. We could prevent 60, 70% of Alzheimer's disease by getting rid of diabetes. So I think what I'm talking about pretty important. You can go into YouTube, and I'm about confirmation, more, and look, and you can see him on YouTube all the time. Dr. Jason Fung, F-U-N-G. Dr. Jason Fung, F-U-N-G. He's got something on YouTube all the time. He's actually a renal doctor from Canada. I think it's Toronto or Montreal. And he's a renal doctor, of all things. And what is he saying in his book? Prevent and reverse type 2 diabetes naturally. Don't turn it into a big deal. And what he's speaking about a lot of time is intermittent fasting too. And I'll tell you about that a little bit. If you eat, say, 50 grams of carbohydrates, that's 200 calories, okay? Moderate amount of protein, okay? If you eat too much protein, too many meat products, you know what the body does? The body has figured out how much protein you need each day. And any extra proteins you take, supplements which you might not need, you know what the body does to it? Converts it to sugar. So all these athletes who are taking these boxes and containers of whey, for example, they just turn themselves into diabetics. That's not building their muscles. They want bigger muscles, lift more weights, okay? It's actually true. And as we get older, it's tougher actually to do that. But it's good to have something, to strengthen up. And some push-ups, some yoga, for example. And Dr. Fung would say eat some good fats, because fat has in it more energy. Our bodies have in it only about 2,000 calories in glycogen. That's sugars, 2,000. You can load it up by eating spaghetti for a few hours before you run a race. 2,000. You can run a marathon on that, and you could generally live on that. And you won't believe this one, because I mentioned this to a lot of athletes I did the other day. We have in us on average 40,000 calories in fat. Although we may not look fat, we have this between muscles and stuff. So if you want to lose weight, to go into fat metabolism, you lose weight twice as fast. You want to get rid of diabetes in 2 months? I say it could be a month. You follow Dr. Fung's method, because if you limit your sugars a bit, okay, you got to eat some, okay, 50 grams a day, even 100, probably get away with it. And then lengthen the time between your meals, okay? All right, maybe for a little while, eat twice a day. Use some nuts or snacks in between. That's fasting, okay? I'm not talking about days. I'm not talking about not eating 1 day a week or even weeks, which some people do. Some religions even, fast certain number of days per month. It's not follow your religion, but I'm talking about if you want to get rid of your diabetes fast, if you're lengthening your time between meals, say over 6 hours, you'll be running out of insulin, and insulin will go down, sugar will go down, and your muscles will give up its fat. It goes to the bloodstream, proteins, albumin pick it up, goes to the liver and makes ketones. Then you use the ketones for energy. And you'll be eating fat. You'll be living off fat. You'll feel great. Even the brain can use it. You'll feel good, and you'll lose weight very quickly, because you're getting rid of fat, and insulin is not around to stuff fat into the cells. You're losing weight, man. You want to lose weight quickly, do some what I call intermittent or hourly fasting, not days or weekends or, let's face it, years ago, hundreds of years ago, we fasted maybe for a month. Mm-hmm. We lived off the fat that our body stored. Mm-hmm. It was called a thrifty gene. We had a gene in us that would let us store fat. It's not hibernation, okay? It's just called a thrifty gene. So in summary, what I'm saying is, do not accept diabetes. You go see your doctor, you say, I want to get rid of my diabetes. I'm reading, I'm looking at YouTube shows. You need to check your blood more frequently. Get one of those monitors, you can check it on your phone more frequently if you want to get rid of it. Make a plan to get rid of it. All those diseases I mentioned, you're less likely to get them, okay? You may live to be 100. You'll avoid decades of disability. Almost all people get amputated. 90% of diabetes have vascular disease. Insulin causes vascular disease 95% of the time. Yes, you can avoid that totally. Unannounced heart attacks can be avoided. They're due to diabetes. So look at my YouTube shows, look at my radio shows. You can come to the pharmacy. I'll see you there for nothing. If you get renal disease, think of stopping it and starting to reverse it. Instead of you say, well, it gets a little lower, I'll be dialyzed. Well, then you need a kidney. And believe me, that's a pain. You got work to do when you get a kidney. And we can avoid all that, okay? Why am I doing it to you? Because it's an opportunity. I love you. I care about you. And look at my other YouTube shows. This will be shown 6:30 Monday, Comcast 57. And you can see all my YouTube shows. YouTube, Rudy Kachmann, 500 shows. I do it because I love you. I care about you. Namaste. Thank you.
Production facilities provided by Access Fort Wayne. Learn more under the Explore tab at acpl.info.